Some years there are updates that completely suspend an entire category. Others you get something like the $399 plus Apple Watch Series 9 and $799 Ultra 2 steady improvements that technically add up to the best Apple Watches we have ever seen. Just not by a whole lot, and not if you have already got a recent Apple Watch model. It makes sense that 2023's updates are quite compared to last year when Apple effectively kicked down the door with not one, not two, but three new smartwatches. This year, the Series 9 and Ultra 2 are nearly identical in design to their predecessors, save new colors, strap options, and carbon-neutral packaging. Instead, the big updates this year are the S9 SiP, the addition of a second-generation ultra-wideband chip, and watchOS 10. The former promises a 30% faster GPU and a 4-core neural engine with twice the performance of the Series 8. That in turn enables onboard Siri processing, greater power efficiency, and the handy double-tap gesture. The upgraded UWB chip enables precision finding, much like AirTags. Meanwhile, watchOS 10 reintroduces widgets to Apple's smartwatch landscape. Perhaps the most novel update to the Series 9 and Ultra 2 is the double tap gesture. The pinchy pinch, it's similar to double clicking with a mouse, except you are making a pinching motion with your index finger and thumb. It will come via software update sometime in October, but Apple sent us a separate Series 9 loaded with a beta version of the feature, so I could give it a whirl. Technically speaking, this tech isn't new. The watchOS 8 Apple debuted Assistive Touch, an accessibility feature for those with limb differences, and Double Tap uses the same underlying technology. The sensors can detect changes in blood flow when the muscles in your forearm move, and that in turn allows you to control the device and navigate menus with one hand. That said, Double Tap and Assistive Touch are not quite the same thing. For starters, Assistive Touch is more power intensive as it's run directly on the CPU, while Double Tap's algorithms has been optimized to run in the background via the S9's neural engine. That's also why Assistive Touch is something you have to set up, whereas the Double Tap is enabled system-wide by default. Plus, Assistive Touch supports a wider range of gestures like a single tap or fist flange, and you can customize what certain gestures do. It has to be that way because it's designed for you to navigate the entire Apple Watch single-handedly. Double Tap is meant to be more contextual way to handle the primary actions of an app. For example, say you get a text, if you double tap it will bring up the ability to reply via voice messages. Double tapping again will send the message. For a timer, double tapping once will pause the timer. Doing it again will unpause it. When the timer goes off, pinching will stop the timer. I have also used it to control the camera shutter, control my music, snooze alarms, scroll through Watch 10's widget stack, and answer or end calls. This is an excellent feature, but it's not without its quirks. For the one thing, it comes with a learning curve. For it to work, you must first to do the raise to wake gesture. You also have to learn the timing. Too fast or too slow won't work, and between selecting actions, there's slight pause. When I was first trying out demos at Apple Park, I was definitely too fast and aggressive. Once I have got my review in it, however, I got the hang of it relatively quickly. It's also not the best at multitasking. If you navigate away from a timer, for example, you won't be able to just double tap to pause or restart while it's running in the background. Once it goes off, you can double tap again since it's back at the forefront. The same goes for snoozing alarms. You will probably have to use Siri or your other hand if you have got lot going on at once. Another thing, I wish it were slightly more customizable. Apple designed this to be intuitive, but not everyone will think double tap ought to be the same thing. I get why in the Messages app, the gesture will bring up a voice reply. However, I would love if I could use it to scroll through quick text replies, select one and send it. Apple is aware of this, as you can customize what the double tap will do for music playback and the smart widget stack. For instance, you can decide whether the gesture will pause or play a track or skip it. For the Smart Stack, you can decide between scrolling through widgets or selecting the first one you have got pinned up top. Overall, there's more to like about Double Tap than not. It quietly literally turns the Apple Watch from a two-handed device into one that can be used single-handedly like a smartphone. If you have got an Apple Watch, then you have undoubtedly had an instance when your hands were occupied and you had to use your nose to select a button. This solves that. Frankly, I firmly believe it will change the way we interact with wearables going forward. I also dig that you don't have to use your index finger. The feature also works with your middle finger and pinky fingers, though it may not work quite as well with the later two. Even so, it's greater that you have alternatives in the event you lose or break your index finger. Apple isn't the first to come out with a gesture-based smartwatch feature. Samsung has also something very similar to Assistive Touch for its Galaxy watches. That said, Apple's taking it a step further and making this part of the default system interface. It's a powerful example of how much accessible design benefits everyone. I hope Apple continues to iterate and improve on this feature and that other smartwatch makers follow suit. Iterative updates aren't bad, they are just not flashy, but that's the biggest problem facing the Series 9 and Ultra 2. These are the best smartwatches Apple's ever made, but while the updates do make the overall experience better, it's like paying another dollar to add an extra topping to your pizza. For some people, that makes the pizza. For others, it's nice but really not necessary, and of course, smartwatches cost hundreds of dollars. If you have a Series 7 or later, you don't really need to update. For owners with a Series 5 or earlier, it might be worth it since you will get a bigger screen, several new sensors, and a processing bump. Series 6 owners are the ones I see being most on the fence, and to those folks, I mostly encourage upgrades if your battery life isn't cutting it anymore. For folks with an Ultra, seriously cool your jets. You are getting the modular Ultra watch face with watchOS 10 and 3000 nits versus 2000 nits doesn't make a huge difference. Otherwise, the biggest case I can make for an upgrade is if you must have double tap, either because you have got minor dexterity issue or think it will be the coolest thing since sliced bread. If you are on the fence, I suggest trying Assistive Touch out for an afternoon to see whether you like the idea of using gesture. That said, if you don't often find yourself tapping your Apple Watch with your nose, that probably isn't a feature you'd need right away. But speaking frankly, Apple did not make these watches for folks looking to upgrade. It made them for people who don't have an Apple Watch already, and it's still true that the majority of people buying Apple Watches each year are new to the platform. For those folks, these are the latest and greatest. Well, until next year.